Hi everyone, welcome to our info session. I hope you're able to hear me well. My name is Julia. I am the program manager of the MPPGA program, and I'm excited to hear some of your questions and talk about our program with you today. As you come in, you're very welcome to put into the chat where you're tuning in from today. We also have a Q&A box where you can ask us questions, and we will be addressing those as the session goes on as well. Awesome, so we have a student from Mumbai, India. Hello. We have a couple of hi's. We have someone from Mexico and Indonesia. That's fantastic. Hello, Sarah from Ghana. It's great to see you. We have Pakistan, Mexico City, Chandigarh, India, Ahmedabad, India, and Bangladesh. Someone from Toronto and someone from Nigeria. This is great. Wow, okay, so a lot of locations are coming in, so that's really great. Someone from China, another person from Ghana, Quebec, Montreal, more from Toronto, Michigan. So this is a really diverse bunch, and that's something we're used to seeing. Hi to someone in Northern Ireland and Oregon. That's so great. So welcome everyone. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that here in Vancouver, BC, Canada, we're on the unceded traditional and ancestral territories of the Musqueam First Nations peoples. So we're excited to welcome all of you from all over the world. I'd also like to introduce some members of our team who have started chatting in the chat. So our graduate program coordinator, Hui, and our graduate program assistant, James, will be monitoring our discussion in the chat and here to answer your questions as the session goes on. So please don't hesitate to point some questions and discussions over their way. They are also the people who often manage our mppga.program@ubc.ca email that many of you may have been directing your emails to. So thank you, everyone. I think we'll just start the PowerPoint slides now, and I'll also be excited to introduce some members of our team as our session goes on. But first of all, the Master of Public Policy program is a professional program within the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs at the University of British Columbia. UBC, as you might know, is a global center for research, innovation, and teaching, and we are consistently ranked among the top 40 best universities in the world. Not only is UBC a great university, it's also located in one of the most interesting and livable cities in the world, Vancouver. And the MPPGA program is located at the Point Grey UBC campus in Vancouver. Now we offer a full-time 20-month program, but also a new 16-month accelerated option. The MPPGA program is a professional program, which means that students in our program do not have a supervisor, and instead of researching and writing a thesis, they participate in a hands-on global policy project. All of those things, including the 16-month accelerated option, as well as how people usually fund their degrees, as well as what happens when you go on a global policy project and which options are available to you, are all things that we'll explain in today's session. So now I'd like to introduce a wonderful colleague of mine. Andrea Reynolds is the manager of student academic services here at the SPPGA. And Andrea is here today to talk to us a little bit about the global policy project, but also the accelerated option, and answer any questions you might have. So welcome, Andrea.
Thanks, Julia, and nice to meet all of the listeners out there. I'm happy to share some information on our program today. So this year, we're really excited to launch a new opportunity for students, which is our accelerated option. So traditionally, our 20-month program, students start out with their core classes in first year, and then they would do some type of work experience or research during the summer. and then they move on to their electives in global policy project or exchange in year 2. But with the new accelerated option for for people who are further along in their professional career, they come in, they have the option to do their electives in the summer as opposed to doing a work term. So that allows them to complete 1 semester early. So this is a great option if you have a short amount of leave time from an employer, you want to finish a little bit earlier, or you already have all of that professional experience that you want, and so you're not as keen on getting that co-op work experience, and so you can continue on and get back to your employer as soon as possible. So this is launching, it's brand new for this year, and we're really excited to be able to do that. To give you a bit of an overview of our curriculum, in the first year, MPPGA students, you take courses in each term, and these courses focus on building the basic needs to succeed in a policy career, and includes economics and policy analysis and evaluation, as well as policy communication. And then in your second year, you would take a mix of 5 stream and elective courses, along with the Global Policy Project. Now, the Global Policy Project is one of the highlights of the program. It's a 6-credit course, and it takes place in the second year, and you get to work with a client to solve a real-world policy challenge. So I'll pass it back on to Julia.
All right, thanks so much for that, Andrea. Now, since its conception, the MPPGA program has been a very globally minded program with a highly diverse cohort, international exchange opportunities in international global practicum, a little bit of what Andrea explained to us, and internships all over the world. Given the current global circumstances, however, we do understand that there are challenges to everything from obtaining a study permit to securing a postgraduate work permit. So now I have a really special guest to invite to the table here. Now, one of 2 guest speakers at our info session today, and these are colleagues of mine at the university who service all the students across our campuses, and we are just so thankful for their time in joining us today. One of those guests is Lilian, and Lilian is an international student advisor here at the University of British Columbia. So, hi Lilian, good morning. I want to ask you to please tell us a little bit about yourself and what should international students know before they consider our program.
Hello, Julia. Thanks for inviting me to join this session and the event. It is really nice to be able to speak to the potential new students. And when it comes to international students and the work that the International Student Advising Department provides at UBC, I'm an international student advisor, and then as part of my role, I am available to address questions that are pertaining to international students on matters that include immigration-related questions, so how to attain the study permits, when is the best time to apply, post-graduation work permit-related questions, work authorization while they are engaged in studies at UBC, and any cultural transition-related questions as well. We also cover health insurance related matters, and we do provide some support in terms of tax filing for international students. And it is great to be able to assist them during their time with the UBC, and then beyond that, whenever they need support from our department.
Thank you, Lilian. Now we have some links down over here in the PowerPoint slide. We have a link to your website, I believe, the International Student Advising website. If they wanted to schedule an appointment with an international student advisor, what would be the best course of action to take?
Okay, those are great questions. Yes, one of the best tools that we have developed throughout the years is the International Student Guide. And that website comprises information about various topics that might be interesting to international students. such as immigration-related matters, health insurance, taxes, and various other topics. We do have a lot of tutorials that walk students through the process of preparing and submitting their application, so students find it useful to be able to go through the tutorial and with that support, prepare and submit their application. If they wanted to reach out to our office, there are 3 different ways. The best one would be to log into our Zoom room. We have advisor assistants who are there to help to schedule appointments with international students advisors or to clarify some of our students' questions. The student advisor assistants, they are available Monday to Friday from 9:30 to 4, and you don't need to book an appointment, you just need to log into our Zoom room. And then another option would be to email us. And if you wanted to email us, please make sure you include your student ID number in your email subject. That helps us to get back to you faster. Our current response time for emails is about 3 business days.
All right, thank you for that answer, Lilian. I can only surmise how busy it's been to answer a lot of student queries during this unprecedented COVID time. Now, some questions have started coming into our Q&A, and I would encourage all of the students who are tuning in today to upvote any questions that you would like to see answered, because the more upvotes that we get, the more apparent the questions are to us on the panel side. So please, if you see that little thumbs up underneath the question and you would like to see that being answered, please go ahead and click on that so that we'll be able to see it better. I do see one question that can be directly addressed to Lilian from Anna. Have international students needed to provide a student visa even if they were not allowed to enter the country?
If their goal is to study in Canada in a program of studies that is 6 months or longer, the study permit will be required. Some students, they have applied for their initial study permits from outside Canada. Some students might be eligible to apply at the port of entry upon arrival to the country. So US citizens would be allowed to apply at the port of entry, but most students will apply prior to traveling from their home countries, and the study permit will be required.
Okay, thank you, Lilian. And to answer the rest of that question, fall semester courses have been conducted completely online in compliance of provincial health guidelines and the university's directive. So thank you for that question. And thank you, Lilian. We'll have more opportunities to direct some questions to Lilian as the session goes on. But now we'll move on to some information about our practicum project. Our practicum project is called the Global Policy Project, or GP Squared, and it's a 6-credit course where students have the opportunity to work with clients to solve current policy challenges, not just in Canada, in British Columbia, but internationally. And this has been an opportunity that a lot of our students have loved partaking in, but has also included a lot of global travel or local travel. So now our question would be, how has this opportunity pivoted in the wake of travel restrictions under COVID? And Andrea, our manager of Student Academic Services, will be available to answer some of those questions, as well as discuss some exciting new contracts and projects that we have started for this year.
Yeah, so certainly we had some challenges when the travel was canceled for this year, but it also turned into some really exciting opportunities. So for our year-long project, which runs from September to April, we were really excited to have 2 Indigenous projects for this year. And this is the one of the first times the program has had the opportunity to work with different First Nations in Canada. So we are working with the Nisga'a Nation on land use policy surrounding climate change, as well as the Altairs Nation, which is in northern British Columbia, and looking at data sovereignty. We've also had the opportunity to keep a lot of our international clients, and the students are working with them remotely, and we'll be conducting remote interviews and remote focus groups and surveys and whatnot. So students are still going through the whole process of the policy project and working with the client, designing the problem and their research, and then hopefully they'll come up with some great recommendations at the end of the project. Some of our international partners include a project in Nepal looking on how the delivery of online education has been working in light of COVID. We're also working with the Canada ASEAN Business Council, a Global Justice Center on climate justice. And we've also been able to work with some more Canadian partners this year, which we don't typically do in our year-long projects. So we're working with the Canada Security Intelligence Service, as well as the Dallaire Center for Excellence, and focusing on the women, peace, and security agenda. So while the students weren't able to travel this year, there was some really exciting, unique opportunities that we had with the project that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So things are going along. Students are right in the thick of it right now, but it's going quite well. So we're really happy for that.
Great, thank you so much, Andrea. We now have a time to go into questions and really dive into some of the big areas that prospective students may be concerned about. So in order to do so, I want to invite our second guest for this info session, and that would be Joshua Robertson, our colleague at the Enrollment Services Office. Joshua is an Enrollment Services Advisor. Hi, thanks for joining us today. Can you talk a little bit about what you usually do and what you speak with in student meetings, and how students should know about in terms of what Enrollment Services does in the university, Josh?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for having me, Julia. Well, my title is an Enrollment Services Advisor, and so essentially we stand as support for all incoming and current students in managing financial matters and non-academic matters relating to the university. If a student has a question that is not readily, they cannot find a ready answer within their program itself regarding scholarships or awards, but it does have non-academic implications, so financial, etc., they can use us as their first point of contact. We can be that connecting service to any relevant area. So essentially the on-campus non-academic fixers for incoming and current students. But if a student had questions regarding the tuition and student fees that they're being assessed, payment options, etc., they would come to us directly. And I do believe on the information being provided on the screenshot, there will be contact information for us. But for this program in particular, I am happy to serve as the direct link. So for those students being accepted who have any non-academic questions regarding to their finances, they'll be provided with my direct contact information.
That's great. Thank you so much for mentioning that, Josh. I think enrollment services can be a point of confusion for students. It's a central office that deals with so many big topics in student daily life in interaction with their program, like getting their registration confirmed and their tuition costs and submitting tuition, getting grants, getting funding, and even doing some sort of a cost benefit analysis sometimes to make sure that they'll be financially ready to partake in the course.
Yes.
So it is such an honor for us to have a direct contact and someone to talk to in terms of enrollment services, because I know it's not always easy to get a hold of someone in that office. So that is definitely an asset for us, and we encourage current as well as prospective students to make sure that they have their awareness of funding structures in order before they partake in this program.
Yeah, I do find it some of the most fulfilling work is to participate in those budgetary and financial planning conversations with students. Because if we're able to alleviate the financial concerns, they are able to focus upon the academic, which is the reason why they're here.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, I am not a money expert, so we are very glad that you are here and familiar with the numbers into how to go to university and navigate all of those tuition payments. So I see now that our program assistant James has included Joshua's information in the chat. So please do take a look at that. Now we'll look at the most popular questions which have come into the Q&A box. First, we have, is it possible to get a full scholarship for this program? And what are the requirements for that scholarship? So we can discuss amongst ourselves in the panel. To my knowledge, there is not a full scholarship opportunity to address all parts of the MPPGA, except for those that are being discontinued for the 2021 year. So last year we had the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship, as well as the EduCanada Scholarship. In my understanding is neither of those are available for the 2021 year, unfortunately. So aside from this, Joshua, what are some common funding that students use from your experience in order to fund their education?
Well, in relation to international students arriving on campus, for those that are fortunate enough to have third-party scholarships and awards from their own personal background, so that's affiliated with their community, employer, etc. We can assist in the confirmation of their enrollment so that that award funding can be applied. There's also sponsorship arrangements with individual's community or home government. If that individual is receiving domestic student loans that require confirmation from UBC in order to support their studies, we serve as that primary point of contact. And in relation to accessing private sources of funding, such as international student lines of credit, etc., we can also guide them through that conversation. So there are a number of opportunities to assist with the financing, but it is complicated. International students do face, as given evidence by the tuition breakdown, responsibilities that need to be met immediately. And so having an advanced conversation with my office is encouraged so that we can establish that financial plan prior to entry into the academic component of their study.
Great, thank you for that answer, Joshua. I'm wondering if we can get that slide up that we had before, the PowerPoint slide with our tuition amounts for domestic and international students. I recall there was also a question that asked, I was an international student who did my first degree in Canada. Would I be considered as an international or domestic student? A domestic student would refer to someone with Canadian citizenship or a permanent residence status here in Canada. So unfortunately, in this case, the student would be considered an international student, and the tuition rates vary depending on these two students. However, for students who become Canadian domestic students during the course of their program, they will immediately be paying those Canadian tuition payments once that status is confirmed. So we've had cases where students came in as international students and were accepted, but before they started their course, they became a permanent resident. In that case, they ended up paying the domestic student fee, of course. Next, we have a quick question from an anonymous attendee. What is the ratio of students that are international versus domestic in this program typically? So I would have to say it really varies year to year. We've had the biggest variance of that ratio this year, probably to address the global situation here. So this year, I think we had around 70% domestic students against 30% international students. Whereas in previous years, the number was a little bit more 6-4, so 60% domestic and 40% international. In any case, we do have a robust showing of international students, and that has always been the case for every cohort. We've always had at least 1/3 of students being international. And what are some potential job opportunities related to the program? And I think that's an area that can address some of the previous funding areas that we discussed before. So in the summer between first year and second year, we have a few months where many students partake in the opportunity to go on co-op. And the co-op is a work opportunity that is also offered to MPPGA students specifically. We have a career and co-op manager who is devoted to developing professional development skills in our students throughout the entire degree, but also really focuses on finding sector-specific, policy-oriented careers for students to partake in co-op sessions. And those are job opportunities where students go into the workplace to do a full-time job for that summer term and will earn a salary per month, depending on what kind of jobs they do. And in previous years, we've had students become policy analysts and research assistants at various think tanks, government organizations, and private sector industry institutions as part of this opportunity. Another thing that we offer is internships. So internships are widely available to our students, as well as research assistant opportunities. Here at the SPPGA, we have a variety of faculty members who do very relevant, interesting research as part of their work here at the school. And they also hire research assistants to support them in their publications, in their research. And these are some common job opportunities that we've seen for MPPGA students. So I see that I have made my own segue into our careers. So I'll just say briefly that conferences and case competitions are some PD opportunities that students are able to partake in as part of the program. There are also two different kinds of mentorship opportunities to our students. In the first year, MPPGA students are assigned an SPPGA faculty member, and this is a great opportunity to get some mentorship, one-on-one time with a faculty member that you might not have gotten a chance to converse with beforehand. And this year, as we all went remote in terms of our learning structure, it's been a really good opportunity for students to foster personal relationships with our faculty members. And all of our faculty members are not just in their office, they're not just reading a book, they are really going out into the world, consulting with the government and really advising on key issues like China-US relations, for example, and going out to the news media and giving interviews. So these are very engaged faculty members who are well aware of the policy fields in Canada and globally. And so it's been a really great opportunity for students to ask questions about their career path and their journey, as well as how to fit into an academic environment as a grad student. Another mentorship opportunity is the professional mentorship opportunity, and those are for students in year 2 of the program. And we have previously had director or executive level professionals in the policy and consulting fields serve as mentors to our students, depending on what kinds of direction they want to go in. And yeah, had a good chance to talk a little bit about the co-op. One thing to really take note of is our co-op and career services manager welcomes opportunities to talk with prospective students. So you'll see her email there in the slide, carrie.ross@ubc.ca. I definitely encourage you to reach out to her if you have any more questions about our professional development opportunities, as well as some specific questions about co-op. All right, so now we'll go back to some questions. What are the funding opportunities for the international students applying to UBC? Also, how can I make my application stand out from the rest and increase my chances of getting accepted? I feel like I've been talking quite a bit so far, so I'll just ask our Manager of Student Academic Services to come back on again and direct this question to her. Andrea, in your opinion, how would an application be strengthened and how can we get it to stand out from the rest?
I think probably one of the most important things that we look for in an application is a really strong link between kind of what you've done, what you're going to bring to the program, and what it is you want to achieve out of the program. So really threading through the pieces of your professional volunteer experience with your academic experience and your career goals, and tying that to how you see the MPPGA is going to allow you to achieve those goals. So that allows for a really passionate student to come into the program, a student who is really excited about the skills they're going to acquire, and those are the students we look for because we want people to go out when they finish their degree with that same passion to really affect change in the world. In terms of addressing some of the funding opportunities for students, Joshua mentioned some of them already, but a few others that we have for the program. We do offer entrance scholarships for students, and there's varying amounts. It doesn't cover your full tuition, but it does help a little bit for that as well. Other funding opportunities are some of the work experiences that Julia mentioned. So co-op during the summer is a paid opportunity, so that can help fund your tuition as well as the RA-ships. We have had some questions about the TA-ships, so teaching assistantships in the program. Those aren't offered directly with the MPPGA, but we have had some students apply to other courses within the university and do the teaching assistantships. There's a number of awards that we have for students who are continuing in the program as well that can support funding, and those are for students who've done really well academically. And the university has some great resources for different scholarships that students can apply to. So I'll maybe ask James or Hui to post a link to the grad studies website for awards and also to the MPPGA website. They've put some really great tables together where you can look through a lot of different funding sources at UBC with the MPPGA as well as externally. And so I would really encourage everyone to apply because often funding goes unclaimed. So you have to apply in order to get the funding. So that would be my recommendations there.
Thank you for that great answer, Andrea. And I think it would be a great chance for us to show some of the tables, if we have that on our PowerPoint slides, as an example of some of the external scholarships that we have been able to research and find for students to consider as they apply to different sources of funding. What I definitely want to emphasize is we cannot speak for the criteria that these external scholarship bodies set for students. They might be different from the admissions criteria. So please look at each opportunity carefully. Those are all offered by different bodies and different funding sources. So if you would have questions about how to apply to a scholarship and which people are viable in order to get some of these opportunities, you would have to inquire of them directly. So thank you, Tina. We have that uploaded here right now. You'll be able to get this table by going to the right link, and I believe Hui or James would be able to, Hui has written on further answers to this question. Yeah, and big clap to Hui for compiling all of this information. Some students might realize that it is a very complicated and arduous process to find out all of these external funding opportunities beyond what is offered. I see in our attendees that someone has raised their hand, so I am going to try to find what's going on here. Let's see who has raised their hand. So Raphael has raised their hand. Would you like to ask your question through the mic, I'm not sure if that's something that we can do. Okay, so Tina, who is managing our tech for us today, has said they'll have to post in the chat. So Raphael, actually, if you'd be able to write down your question in the Q&A box, we would love to see your question there. Thank you for raising your hand and being engaged. Now we'll go on to some other questions in the meantime. What are some funding opportunities for the international students applying to UBC? That's something we have addressed. Some things we've seen in the past, as Joshua has mentioned, is funding opportunities from their government. So we've seen students from Singapore or Kazakhstan have fully funded rides to our program. Other opportunities are, I think, various funding sources in the table that we've seen as well. Unfortunately, again, the MasterCard scholarship is not available this year. And to the best of our ability, we have not heard of any alternatives. So another one that's been related to the question that was previously asked is, what are the most important things you're looking for in a strong applicant who could get the highest merit scholarships? And yes, the only form of scholarships that we offer internally as part of the program, and you don't have to apply to them, are the merit scholarships. And the merit scholarships address excellent candidates for the program on various points of the criteria, and they are awarded by our admissions committee at the same time that we are assessing admissions. So the questions are: relevant work experience or education? Yes, that matters. Strong GPA definitely matters. Knowledge of Canada does not matter. Any specific skill sets, such as foreign language proficiency, I would say those matter as well. Unfortunately, we are not able to comment on the specific proportion of how important each of these areas are, but I can definitely say that we are looking for well-rounded candidates who have a compelling reason to partake in policy work. Next, we have a question: what are the most common career paths for MPPGA students? And I'm wondering, Andrea, if you would also be able to speak to some of this, and this would be a nice segue to discuss what's been going on amongst our alumni, which we have available in our slides as well. We have some sample roles by our alumni as they've come in to us. So Andrea, whenever you're available, would you be able to talk to us about what's been going on with our alumni and where our students usually end up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with the program since we launched in 2015. So it's been really one of the best things about the my role here is to see where our alumni end up and what type of impact they have. And they go in all different directions, to be honest. So we have quite a few students who end up in government at all levels. So we have, from our most recent cohort, a graduate who's now working with the city of Vancouver as a policy analyst. We have alumni at the federal government, for example, with our Department of Environment doing policy analysis there. As you can see on the website, that's Lauren. She's working for the provincial government in government affairs. And so that's the government side, but then we also have a lot of alumni who go into the private sector. So for example, one of the graduates from our first cohort, she works with Goldcorp, which is a mining corporation, but she works specifically around their sustainability policy. So lots of variety. We have students who've gone on to work for the United Nations in different capacities, worked with NGOs, or started their own consultancy firms. So really, there's a lot of different opportunities depending on where you want to go. And I would strongly recommend that you take a look at the stories on the website just to get a sense of what it is that our alumni end up doing. Yeah, so here's a few titles that you can see of positions that our alumni actually hold currently. So lots of variety there in terms of organization and scope.
That's great. Thank you, Andrea. And while I have you, we also have another question. What is the average age of the students of the program? Is there an average age range that you've seen throughout those years?
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to remember the specific stat, but definitely I think we're around the 25 to 30 mark is probably where the bulk of our students fall. But we have had students in the younger age range as well as the older age range. Because it's a professional program and we require those few years of professional experience, that's why we're a little bit kind of closer to the mid-20s. But then we have some students who want to come in and do a career shift. So Lauren, that I was mentioning before, who now works for the government, she was a lawyer before, and she wanted to come back and make a shift and go into policy. And so we have a number of students who've done that as well. And so they come in to the program a little bit older.
Great, thank you, Andrea. Next, we have a question from Anna again. What is the average of MPPGA students who get a partial or full scholarship from UBC? By average, I assume the question would be, what is the average? Oh, can we just continue having the PowerPoint slides on if that's possible? What is the average grade, point average, is what I am supposing in terms of this question. And yeah, I just do not like encountering my face all of a sudden when answering these questions. So unfortunately, we're not able to disclose like an exact number or a GPA in terms of who gets merit scholarships and who don't, because it is a completely subjective process. I'll be transparent here and talk you through how admissions occur. January 21st passes, we get a whole batch of applications that come in from our students, and those are shuttled away to our admissions members, all of whom are faculty members who have signed on to evaluate admissions for this year for the degree. Once that happens, we all come together and all applicants are sort of put in this long list, a list of hundreds of people, and we go through each of those entries and the grade point average, the experience, special notes, global experience, special areas like languages, work experience, all of that is in each line of a person's entry. And we go through all of those entries individually, and they are ranked based on the scale that we have to evaluate our applicants. And so there is a certain cutoff line, and that cutoff line for merit scholarships is determined on the basis of how many applicants have applied to our program that year and what is the quality of each of those applications for that year. So it is totally relative to the quality and the number of other applications that we receive in terms of the adjudication of those merit scholarships. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. And next we have another scholarship question. What are the different kinds of scholarships and grants for Canadians from other provinces? What is the average grant for scholarship given? And again, this would have to be something that individuals research for themselves. Unfortunately, from the central point of the program, we can only answer on areas that correspond directly to the academic and the tuition areas of our program. All others, such as funding methods and funding opportunities, would have to be something that the individual finds out for themselves. One interesting question that we get from time to time is GRE required or important for this program? The GRE is neither required nor important for admissions to our program. So please do not feel the need to submit your test scores or to even take the test at all. Thank you. Now we have a pretty lengthy question in terms of our streams. So the question is, in regards to the 3 program option, I'm wondering how flexible UBC's public policy program is for scheduling education options for students with broad interests. So that's a really good question and something that we get from our current students as well. How can I cater my education experience as part of the MPPGA program if I don't necessarily fit into one stream? and if some of my interests are outside of the streams. I'll also point this question to Andrea, because Andrea has been working with our current students this year to talk with them about their stream choices and what the process is in applying to the right stream, and talking with our grad director about it. So Andrea, would you be able to answer this question?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about our program is that it actually can be really flexible if you have a goal in mind in terms of what you want to achieve. So when students are choosing their second year courses, they will meet with our graduate program director, who is currently George Hoberg, and they'll outline what it is they want to achieve. So if students are really clearly focused in one particular stream, it makes it fairly straightforward. They would just choose courses from that stream as well as some complementary electives. But if you have a really unique interest and you want to put together courses from different streams, you're definitely able to do that after you've had a conversation with the graduate director. We just want to make sure that everything is actually connected and threaded together to make something that will actually help you get towards your career goals. So it's certainly an option to take courses from multiple streams. And we also have the option for students to take one of their elective courses actually outside of the MPPGA. So we have an education faculty, for example, at UBC. So if you're interested in educational policy, you could take a course from them, for example. And so students have the option to get a course from a different area to supplement what they do in the MPPGA.
Great, thank you, Andrea. And while we have you, would you be able to answer another very common question that we also see in the Q&A box today, which is, what exactly are the econ and stats requirements before coming into the program or before applying? What is the level of ability that the program expects me to have?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is definitely a very common question. And so the requirement for us is for you to have introductory knowledge of both micro and macroeconomics as well as statistics before you start in the program. So it's definitely helpful if you've completed it ahead of time so that we can easily see that you have that information. So for example, if you've taken an introductory micro or macro course at university, and we can see that on your transcript, that will satisfy that option. Similarly with the statistics course. But what we do have is we have a list of options for you to go through if you don't have those completed yet, and that includes some online courses from different institutions as well as different options through Coursera and whatnot. There's also the option if you have acquired some of that experience through your work experience to be able to demonstrate that as well. So we have some pre-assessment tests that students are required to finish before they start in the program. So once you've submitted your application, you would sometime after that you would have to take the exams to show that you are kind of at the level that we need to get into the program. And this is both for you and for us. We want you to be able to succeed when you get here, and you know, you dive right into that economics and stats course in your first term. So it's important to make sure you have that base knowledge so that you can be successful in those courses. Back to you, Julia. Oh, actually, I think Julia's popped off for a second there, so I guess I can continue on. All right, I see a quick comment asking for my email in the box there, so I'll just post that. Thanks for your patience, everybody. And you can also use, for any other questions for the program, the best email is the mppga.program@ubc.ca. That will help answer all of your questions. All right, so let's go back to the open questions in our Q&A here. So the next one that I see is from a non-English speaking country. So my question is, according to the application deadline and the pandemic situation, what happens if I can't have the IELTS for January? That is a good question. Oh, welcome back, Julia. Just in time.
Hi, sorry about that. I think my battery ran out and I didn't even notice because I was so preoccupied with keeping up with everyone's great questions. So I'm sorry for that mix up, everyone. I think now would be a really good time to go through some of our admissions requirements because they're right in front of us and we only have, I think, just 10 minutes left of our info session. So what I can definitely say is what we have on the slide right over here is our non-negotiables. We absolutely require a minimum GPA, a four-year bachelor's degree, and English language test scores. And I think I recall a question where someone asked, if I'm not able to take English language scores on time, what would happen? Unfortunately, I think there is very little leeway in terms of English language test scores. These are minimum requirements that come to us directly by the grad and postdoctoral studies here at UBC. And those guidelines come to ensure fairness across all graduate studies courses at UBC and make sure that there is a bottom line in terms of admission. So please do heed those requirements. All else, I would say, adds to your application. We have a good question that asks, does the admission process include an interview or is this optional? We have had cases of students being interviewed, but we have also had cases of students who are admitted without any interview contact. So when someone is asked to interview, that would be required on your part. However, if you are not required to interview, that is not weird at all. It just happens to be that way that some people are interviewed because we want more information beyond what they've provided in the application. And in some cases, we're able to make the decision without an interview. So thank you. Now, let's see what are some other questions that we have. One question that we get sometimes is, how do we calculate GPA? And you can rest assured we have a very complex calculation system. And many of our staff members, including Hui and James, who you've been getting to know through the chat, devote much of their time in January to calculate GPA accurately, depending on where in the world you've done your degrees. So we are well equipped to translate international grades into our GPA system. For students who have completed their undergraduate degree in Canada, we calculate the third and fourth year into your GPA. So while for international students, we look at all 4 years in terms of assessing your grade average, for students who have completed their degree in Canada, we do that for the third and fourth year only. We have an interesting question. Where does the UBC MPPGA program rank in comparison to other similar programs in Canada? And I think I encountered this question in prospective student meetings as well. Why should I choose the MPPGA when there are lots of other options in, for example, Toronto or McGill or Carleton, for example? And I think that's a good question. But again, it's a question that you would have to answer for yourself. Each policy program in Canada addresses different specializations, has different faculty, has a different average cohort number, and has different opportunities once you attend. And so my recommendation would definitely be to do what you're doing, come into info sessions, ask good questions, read what's on the website, and assess for yourself in comparison to the career goals and the learning outcomes that you would like to address. We also have one question that's come in. Does an international student need to make any payment before they begin an application? All prospective students will need to pay an application fee, and that will differ depending on whether you are a domestic applicant or an international applicant. But aside from the application fee, you would not need to pay anything in relation to your application. Another important question is, much does work experience matter to the application? And I'm wondering if you would be able to help answer this, Andrea, because I can see that the answer will probably be different for the accelerated option compared to the 20-month regular option. So I'll point this question your way, Andrea. Can you speak a little bit about how work experience factors into admissions and assessment of applications for our program?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the accelerated option for the program, which is the 16-month option, we're looking for a minimum of 5 years of professional experience. So that piece is really important for the accelerated option because we're expecting you to be able to kind of skip that the summer work experience and continue on with your studies and be ready to jump right back into the job market afterwards. For the rest of the applicants, we look for generally 2 years of professional experience, which is important for admission, but that's broadly considered. So we have students who come directly out of undergrad, but they've also done things like co-op in their undergrad, or they have extensive volunteer experience or did part-time work during their undergrad as well. And so we do look for those things as a key component of the application. And I think it's also really important for a professional program, if you have professional experience to draw on when you're actually in your courses, because then you can make the links between what you're learning and how that applies when you're actually in a work context. And you get to learn from your classmates in terms of the professional experience that they've had, and it allows for a much richer educational environment. And so we do look for those pieces. But again, if you're coming right out of undergrad, if you have a depth of work experience through volunteering or part-time work, we still do accept students in that regard.
Great, thank you so much, Andrea. Now that we have just a little bit of time left for the rest of our info session, I'm going to ask for something interesting, and that is I'm going to ask every member of our panel to prepare one piece of advice that they would like to pass on to prospective applicants for the MPPGA program. So Joshua, Lilian, Andrea, if you could prepare one statement or something you would like to say to our students before we log off, that would be great. Before we go on to do that though, I'd like to remind everyone of our YouTube channel where all of our previous info sessions have been recorded and are available for you to see. And some of those info sessions refer a little bit more to details about our admissions process and some more tidbits from our special guest speakers based on which info session that was. We also have an upcoming info session in December with someone that we've already spoken about, and that is Carrie Ross, our co-op and career manager, as well as many of our former alumni. So I believe that info session will be a really great opportunity for us to see what's been going on in the lives of our own students and hear from them directly about the impact of the MPPGA in their own career journeys. So yeah, those are some important things I wanted to pass on. I also have my own personal Calendly link. So for prospective students who would like to bring their question, their specific question and their case to a one-on-one meeting, I definitely welcome anyone who would like to meet with me. We offer 15-minute sessions to advise on personal issues and application questions and questions about the program. So you're very welcome to book a section with me whenever you are available on Calendly. All right, so we will move on. Just gonna ask for our panelists to provide their pieces of advice, if that's possible. So we have Andrea, Joshua, and Lilian. So why don't we go in that order? Please let us know what you think and what they should consider as they apply.
Absolutely. So happy to start off. I think probably the most important thing that I would suggest is for students to really look around at different programs and really find the one that fits with your interest, your needs, and your career goals. I think the MPPGA is an absolutely fantastic program, but it has to fit your needs. So you have to be really motivated. It's a big time commitment. It's a financial investment. So really take a look at our stories, take a look at our courses, make sure it's a really good fit for you.
And I guess I'll jump in. Your entry into the MPPGA program will confirm your academic prowess and your passion for the subject area. I want you to establish a strong financial plan and foundation in order to continue to excel in this area. So use a detailed financial budget in advance of your entry into the program so as to alleviate any of those concerns and allow you to focus exclusively on achieving as great an experience academically as possible.
And maybe I will also add, once you make up a decision, make sure you understand from an immigration perspective, if that is applicable to you, what are the needs, what are the documents that you need to have in place, what are the potential applications that you need to submit, when to submit those, so that you are not stressing out waiting for your application to reach a decision. So reach out and ask for help. We are here to support you and help you in transitioning from being abroad to coming to study in Canada.
Thank you so much, everyone. Some really great practical and heartwarming advice. So thanks everyone for your time. Thank you to our participants from all over the world in so many different time zones for tuning in to us today. We look forward to answering your questions further through email, through advising appointments, etc. And please continue to stay engaged. Thank you again.